Hi, it's Mrs. Palmer, your media specialist. Today I'm going to talk to you about plagiarism before you start your project. So the Latin meaning of plagiarism is actually kidnapper. The reason for this is because you are essentially kidnapping something. You're taking something that doesn't belong to you. The definition is an act or instance of using or closely imitating the language and thoughts of another author without authorization and the representation of that author's work as one's own, as by not crediting the original author. There are some questions you can ask yourself when you are testing for plagiarism. Number one, is it someone else's work? And number two, are you presenting it as your own? If you answered yes to both of those questions, then it is plagiarism. If you only answered yes to one, then it is not necessarily plagiarism. When you're wondering what you have to document, basically, in short, everything you borrow. You'll see the list of items that are on the screen. So the golden rule that we always say is, if you're in doubt, cite your sources. It's better to cite than not cite. And you'll see right here where it says information not well known. In a few slides, we'll talk about information that is well known. So here are a few passages we're going to go over and talk about if it's plagiarism or not. So the original passage was, at the start of the Great Depression, many Americans wanted to believe that the hard times would only be temporary. The one that was put in a paper was, at the beginning of the Great Depression, a lot of Americans wanted to think that the hard times would only be temporary. So it is plagiarism because it's basically changed a few words and kept the sentence almost exactly the same. This original passage says he was a silent man by custom. This one says he was usually a quiet person. So is that plagiarism or not? And it's not plagiarism because it was definitely rewritten. Excuse me. Okay, the last one, plagiarism or not. Original passage. Devices in the iPod range are primarily digital audio players designed around a central click wheel, although the iPod Shuffle has buttons also. And then the new passage. An iPod is an MP3 player that lets you choose and play songs to listen to using a click wheel or, on older versions, buttons. Plagiarism or not? And this is not plagiarism because it was rewritten nicely. All right, so what is the plagiarism or the penalty for plagiarism? So here is FCPS's policy right here. So basically, you fail the assignment, not get credit for it. Other disciplinary guidelines, regulations, if you are part of an honor society, you can get kicked out or not be allowed in one. And then in college, lots of different things. Failure of a course to expulsion. Every time I talk about plagiarism, I like to tell a story that another teacher at Tuscarora told me. When she was in her final week of college, it was finals week, a classmate decided to cheat on a paper. He turned that in. He was caught for plagiarism, and he was kicked out of school. After 4 years of thousands of dollars and working very hard for his degree, he no longer earned it and could not count any of those credits. And that was all because of one paper that he decided to plagiarize. So when you're doing a project, writing a research paper, why should you cite your sources? Couple reasons. It's important to give credit to the original author. It lets your readers know where you got the information, and it's the right thing to do. If you wrote a paper, if you wrote a poem, if you composed a song, you would want credit for that. So I mentioned before about familiar things or well-known knowledge. So those are things you don't have to cite, such as familiar proverbs. You can't judge a book by its cover. Well-known quotations. I have a dream from Dr. Martin Luther King. His entire speech is not necessarily well-known, but that one particular phrase is. So you don't need to cite that. And common knowledge. Knowledge Common knowledge is knowledge that every intelligent person has. So George Washington was the first president of the United States. My son learned that in kindergarten. That is something that is common knowledge. So certain things like that you do not have to cite. All right, so there are online citation generators. We have access to one called Noodle Tools. So that is the one that you should be using for projects while you're in school. Yes, you could Google citation generators. They're not all the same. If there's one where once somebody creates a citation, it saves it. It could have been a third grader that created that citation, and now you're using a citation that you really do not know if it's correct. So we'll use Noodle Tools, and that'll be another video for you to learn how to use that. These are just some sites that offer free use images. Okay, this is a website citation example. The top is the information that you need to put in, and then the bottom is once the information was there. You are lucky, though, because the citation generator Noodle Tools you just enter the information and it will automatically put it in the format that you need. All right, Wikipedia. So Wikipedia is out there. People like to go on it. Do you think you should use it? And if you do, how? Well, the answer to this could be simple. Don't use it. You don't know who edited it. If you do find something that you really think is great on it, go to the bottom of the site where they have their sources. Go to one of those sources and see where that's from instead of just using Wikipedia. There will be a video about our school databases, and our school databases are great sources for you to use for this project and other research projects. First of all, they have great information. They're updated very frequently by the companies that own the databases. It's accurate information. Another great thing about the databases is that it is one click and you can have your APA citation without having to enter information.
Oh, it'd be so much easier if I could just copy this.
If I just use this, I would sound so much smarter. I really need A's this semester to get into a good grad school.
There are just too many books to read and websites to go through. I don't have enough time. Plus, it's on the internet. Isn't all that stuff free for the taking? There are many reasons people plagiarize. The pressure to succeed can drive a person to cheat in order to get higher grades or even a promotion at work. It appears to be an easy way out. Information overload can often feel overwhelming. Grabbing a sentence or two might seem like no big deal, but it is unethical and can get you in trouble. One solution is paraphrasing, putting the information into your own words, but you have to make sure that you paraphrase enough. Well, what does it mean to paraphrase enough? What's the rule?
You can't just list all the facts you found. You have to use them to make an argument. The information you collect is the evidence for your argument. For example, I'm writing a paper on the origins of the United States Army. Here's text from the Federalist Papers describing why a standing army was necessary. Though a wide ocean separates the United States from Europe, yet there are various considerations that warn us against an excess of confidence or security. On one side of us, and stretching far into our rear, are growing settlements subject to the dominion of Britain. On the other side, and extending to meet the British settlements, are colonies and establishments subject to the dominion of Spain. This situation and the vicinity of the West India Islands belonging to these two powers create between them, in respect to their American possessions and in relation to us, a common interest.
Well, how are you supposed to paraphrase all of that?
It's easy. I just pick the main point of the paragraph and put it into a single sentence. Some early Americans wanted to protect themselves against a united England and Spain because both countries had colonies in North America. Hamilton, Federalist 24.
Well, why don't you just put quotes around the whole thing and footnote it?
Because who talks like that anymore? The way I paraphrased it is shorter and easier to understand.
Quotes should only be used when a writer expresses something so well that his or her specific words are vital to making your argument. A quote should be short and considered the most important part of the paragraph.
If something is a well-known fact, something that is well established, I don't think there's any problem with using that without attributing it. It's when one begins to take original material that somebody else has created, that may be a theory, it may be a new fact that's not well known, and uses that as your own. I think that's plagiarizing.
Quotes, paraphrasing. I probably should have started this a week ago. It's due tomorrow morning. It didn't have to be 10 pages long. I could probably do it all in one night. Students are more likely to get caught plagiarizing through non-attribution and patch writing when scrambling to meet a deadline. Remember, the same technology that makes online information easy to find, cut, and paste also makes it easy for instructors to scan your work for plagiarism. So don't wait until the last minute. Take time to organize your research.